and welcome to Let's Talk Horse Business. It's me, George, your host, and today I'm going to be running a solo episode just for you. But we're going to be focusing on venues. Why are venues closing? We're losing venues left, right, and centre. What is that all about? I'd like to take this time to look at how that looks for the operation of a venue, but also how it looks for us as competitors. We'll look deeply at the strategies or the things that, as a whole industry, we can bring together to hopefully get some more venues staying with us and what we can do as the competitors to support them. As you may well know, I've got an invested interest in dressage, and we have recently learned that the Hickstead International Grounds will no longer be running dressage competitions. Now, I don't believe that's the dressage world's problem, as in they're not stopping because they don't like dressage, but what they're doing is realising operationally and the costs behind running these events are too great for them to continue. And we can't blame them for that, because all of these venues are businesses. And why run something that is running at a loss? So, as competitors, we turn up to a venue and we expect the perfect service, a nice, clean premises, well-maintained features, but it comes at a cost. So on the side of the competitor, we have this expectation of these venues. We have our own preconceived ideas, which often are benchmarked against others, which perhaps isn't fair, but understandable, because we want to have the best shows. Why are we doing this if it's not the best? But behind having the best are extreme expenses. And this is where we start talking about the venues. You know, people like Hickstead, they looked at it and gone, you know, out of what we take, whether it's a British dressage entry, an FEI entry, international, we're only getting a small fraction. And for that, we have to maintain the venue. We have to staff it. We have to clean it out when we have new clients. We got to put on a show. And they're huge expenses, let alone the business rates. You know, I dread to think the business rates on something like that. The utility bills, rents if they're applicable. And so it's really left me pondering as to how, as an industry, whether it be dressage, show jumping, eventing, racing, how we can all support our venues better, but still get the service that we actually expect and want. There are economic pressures. So let's just talk about those. We are currently in a state where everyone has a little bit less money. All of us competitors are going out saying how expensive it is, and it is. But to that extent, we also have the venues which have got increased energy bills. We have got venues that have got increased staffing bills. So as much as it's more challenging for us, it is also more challenging for them. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that because of our expectations in what we think. And there is nothing wrong with that. There really isn't anything wrong with that. But what I really want to open our eyes to is the fact it's on both sides of the coin. We've touched on the operation costs, but there's also the constant development needs for the dressage. There are venues out there that have been running for many, many years that haven't spent a penny on development. And therefore then, you know, they haven't done that out of choice. They've done that because there's so many other things to take into consideration. And having experienced the equestrian space, I've experienced livery, I've experienced now my active horse transport, there really isn't a lot of space for profit, or let alone breaking even. So how can we go about either working with venues or as competitors or as venues, either holistically or separately, that is going to support one another? How can British dressage and FEI work to support the venues and the competitors? Well, this is the million-dollar question. I brought it up today for everyone to consider, but I don't have the answers for you. But I'm going to run through some of the things which might well be worth having a look at. Networking. Is there a way that as an industry we can come together, network, and through the networking provide each other with goods, services that can help all of us? When we go to a venue for an event, quite often the bigger venues, international, they're going to have trade stands. What can the trade stands be doing to help the venue and the competitor? Now, I don't want to waffle on about it for too long because there really is no right answer. But the reason I'm bringing this up today is because another loss like Hickstead, you know, if we lose any other venues like that, it really is going to be detrimental. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and comments on this topic. whether that be at the bottom of the show here or whether it be on social media. Because the only way we're going to fix this is to work as a group, all of us together. It's not going to, we can't expect a venue to go, oh, well, the venue needs to find more money. They need to earn more money to pay for our fantastic venue. Well, that's frankly not scalable. And we're also not going to expect all of us in the equestrian world to go and suddenly make more money, cut back on our own expenses, and just come up with more money to pay for the venue. So what is the answer? Because this needs to be looked at. What I would propose is that we all come together. We work with organisations like BD, we work with organisations like the FEI and events and venues, and look at what's currently in place for those venues, which then comes down to us as competitors. Because I actually don't know the answers to that, and maybe some of you can enlighten me. But it does seem unusual that we have venues taking on our competitions who are clearly not receiving the compensation they require to keep them running. But of course, us as competitors, on the other side of it, we're getting charged a lot of money. So where's that money going? What's it doing? So I think we need to build a community, whether it be a network or a board or some sort of facility to be looking at these problems, because venues like Hickstead are huge losses to us. And I think if we don't do something, the sport is at risk. But that's all equestrian sport. That goes for racing too. I've recently had more interaction with the racing industry, and whilst it looks all money, glitz and glam on the outside, the prize money nowadays, although they have some and dressage doesn't, albeit, understand that, but they've got prize money. That prize money is the same today as it was 15 years ago. What is that telling us? So something's got to change. And I can't speak for the eventing world, I can't speak for the show jumping world, but I'm sure these pressures exist across the board. So what do we do about it? Now that's bringing me to the end of the episode, because I don't have those answers for you, unfortunately. But we've spoken about the concerns for the venues. Regulatory changes, insurances, costs, utilities, business rates, maintenance, new surfaces, cleaning, huge amounts. And we've spoken about the costs for the clients. Their entry fees are going up all of the time. The venues are not running as smoothly as they should. Perhaps there wasn't quite enough bedding in your stable, or you weren't able to order some. But we no longer can think of this as this is my problem as a competitor, that's their problem as a venue. We need to come together, because the only way we're going to find answers is to bring all of us in as one. We need to find investment for the industry, but we also need to do our bit as competitors and be mindful of the venues and their challenges too. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Horse Business. That was all about venues, and I just hope it makes us think a little bit more. And I would love to hear some of your comments about venues you've been to, things that you think we could do to change, or anything that's going on out there which perhaps I don't know about that I can get involved with to also help with this holding up of this industry and bringing us all together to make it work for all of us. Thank you.